So I've just made a little introduction to some of the massive crimes of the European Union leaders, the European Central Bank, even the local leaders in UK. This very week they are cozying up to each other north and south of the border within months of the referendum, pretending that none of them are corrupted and all of them are working for their countries. The earlier video showed you how the European Central Bank and Mario Draghi have launched another massive round of quantitative easing, which is issuing money to the elites and the corrupted banking sector that all inhabit a toxic debt pool, because the money is laundered into elite pockets by the monetary institutions, all of which are run by the Rothschilds. And I got round to explaining to you that every one of these things is a cover-up for what is actually happening in the financial world and in the assassination bureaus around the world. They are run by the most ruthless monarchies in the world, which make them the puppets of the moneylenders who actually own the world and are the world's strategists. So this is a little introduction to the mythology that the French President De-Gaulle was not himself a genocidal leader, which is an absolute lie, and the pretense that they had tried to take him out 7 or 8 times in his lifetime. He's a profiteer in wartime, he's a profiteer in peacetime, and the Day of the Jackal movie is a pathetic joke that covers up that man's crimes. He was driven by coercion and fear, and Jacques Foccart was the real boss in France for all of that time. Let's watch just a little bit of it.
Attempt on the life of President De Gaulle. In desperation, the OAS terrorists hired a professional killer. His code name, the Jackal.
This is a once-in-a-lifetime job.
This is now another film. This is now another film about Carlos the Jackal, which is alleged to be a true life story about a terrorist who roamed around Europe killing people, a bit like the Usual Suspects movie and the role of Kaiser Soze. Yeah, much feared, much loved and lusted after by Europe's luscious women. All of it is made up to cover the sins of the British monarchy or the German monarchy, call them what you will. Let's have a look. So this is a trailer for Carlos the Jackal.
Planeta, todos los revolucionarios juntos luchando al mismo tiempo. ¿Tú me dices arrogante? Pues sí, no jodas, soy un arrogante.
How long have you been with us? You are still a boy. I need men.
So you don't trust me because I'm young?
You have to prove yourself.
Like you, I strongly believe that the Palestinian struggle should take at an international level. I would be honored to contribute some of my modest skills.
Choose a good name.
I already have.
Terror. Blackmail. The taking of civilian hostages.
Every best-selling religious service has its eyes on you.
I used to make a woman drunk on you.
You need me. My name is Fear.
Who do you think you are?
Are you a moral judgment?
I decide whether you must be eliminated or not.
For me, there's no going back.
I am honored to meet the friends.
Isn't that romantic that we can have Europe divided like that by fiction and legend? Let me show you what it's all about. And this I played in the earlier video. was actually the national anthem of the UK. Let's play it again and I will show you with emphasis the lyrics of the national anthem, which condone, like the lyrics and the dogma that drives Mossad, that everything should be done in secret by political deceit, and that is the way that the Britain gets its greatness and the monarchs get to stay in power. Let's just have another little play of that. I don't want to make it last too long, because I want to show you what all of these things are designed to cover up. So let's take you into this, but just for a little bit. So in the earlier video, when my batteries ran out or my memory card ran out, I was able to show that a lot of the stuff that is on the newspaper front pages is about the monarchy and its genocidal crimes in the Twin Tower detonations. Prince Andrew led the World Trade delegation for a full decade beyond that event. In the papers this week, he is having sex with 17-year-old girls. That's how trivial it is. Let me show you the magnitude of the frauds, and let me read that out to you for emphasis. O Lord our God, arise. The Queen is God's representative in England, and that in itself is a scandal. O Lord our God, arise. Scatter her enemies and make them fall. Confound their politics, frustrate their knavish tricks. On thee our hopes we fix. They fix other countries and stitch them up big time. And the religious fraud and the things that they sing about fixing you is a joke about Jesus Christ and the resurrection, and about the overlap of the Festival of Lights with the Christmas celebrations, all of which are frauds and entirely understood by these bastards in the throne, or on the throne, and in the massive palaces all over Europe that they have stolen from their cousins. Let me show you that bit of the story now, which is where I got to. I took you to Sintra and I showed you the palace of Sintra, where Greg Hallett was able to track down the surviving monarchs who are the legitimate claimants from King George of Cumbria's bloodline through Queen Victoria, Marcus Manuel, and the relatives of those legitimate claimants of Queen Victoria's children are the residents at Sintra when Greg Hallett visited them. And the name of the claimant to the throne is the Duchess of Alba, and Marcus Manuel, the survivor, who was met by Greg Hallett in these buildings. He roamed around looking for all of the marks that make the legitimate claim to the throne legitimate and identifiable by Her Majesty in the UK, which is why they had Greg Hallett taken down, or they simply paid him off to desist. I prefer to adopt the former outcome, because Greg was such a spirited chap, and the killings on behalf of the royal family are done by assassination bureaus, and if it is correct, it has been revealed that people like Nick Clegg's wife, who's Portuguese, runs the assassination bureaus. I very much doubt that, and the film that was made in Bruges is like all of the films that are made about De-Gaulle and those 7 attempts to assassinate him. It's just a sideshow for the real truths. Let me tell you the real truths about how the royals treat their relatives. So this is the life and death of the real jackal, the Carlos character, who was Carlos I of Portugal. Yeah, it's pronounced Carlu, the diplomat, also known as the martyr. September 1863 to 1st of February 1908. Fine, upstanding looking man with the tassels which are stressed are part of the religious joke, and the gladiator joke, and the thumbs up and thumbs down signs. Okay, and even the joke about Beaker in the Muppet Show with his hair standing up. Okay, they think that it is ever so funny, and this is a particularly profitable exercise for the British Royals, as you'll see. September 1863 to 1st of February 1908. That is in the lead up to World War I, where many contenders to be in the profiteering money streams were violently taken out. Okay, that's by their contemporaries, by the banking leaders, by the skulls, by the leading universities that we've talked about, and the brutal methods of the intel organisations that are beginning to cluster around those massive profiteering institutions. Okay, he was the King of Portugal and the Algarves. He was the first Portuguese king to die a violent death since Sebastian of Portugal in 1578. This occurred in 1908 when Carlos was murdered in Lisbon as he travelled in an open carriage with the royal family. He was born in Lisbon, the son of King Louis and Queen Maria Pia of Savoy. Now, Pia Arland Harkinson is the PA and news guru for Barroso at the head of the EU, where Mario Draghi is doing the dirty on the economic scandals this very week. Okay, he's the daughter of Victor Emmanuel, King of Italy. Now, Emmanuel is in the Bible, and the people that are in the Bible have been inserted there as recently as 1960, so there are no surprises anymore for the magnitude of these fraudulent stories. He was baptized with the names Carlos, Fernando, Luis Maria, that's the Virgin Mary, Victor, Miguel, Rafael, Gabriel, Gonzaga, Xavier, Francisco de Assis, Jose Simao. Jose Jimenez is the cover-up for the moonshot joke in America, and they think it is really funny in the media and the Zionist film sector to take the piss out of all of this. And there's the baptismal presentation. I have no idea whether or not this man is circumcised, and you know now all about the Christian and the Jewish frauds entirely overlapping, and that includes Hanukkah and Christmas, held in the same part of the year and the Jews rotate the date for their Christmas and the Hanukkah celebrations, and the Christians rotate the date for their Easter. Isn't that clever that world leaders can think that out for themselves? And there is the christening, I think we said. It's magnificent. The fine art that accompanies all of the frauds is worth almost as much as the frauds themselves, and I've explained to you how that is done in auction houses now, where the auctioneers appoint a team of buyers and a team of sellers so that everybody gets their performance bonus and the value of the stock keeps rising, just like the results of the quantitative easing. Hyperinflation, and that leads us into world wars again and again and again. Okay? His paternal first cousins included Frederick Augustus III of Saxony, Princess Maria Josepha of Saxony, Prince Wilhelm of Hohenzollern Sigmaringen, and Ferdinand I of Romania. His maternal first cousins included Napoleon Victor Bonaparte, Victor Emmanuel III of Italy, Emmanuel Filiberto, 2nd Duke of Aosta, it's not Ostia, Vittoria Emanuel, Count of Turin, Luigi Amadeus, a little movie made about those themes, Duke of the Abruzzi, Umberto, Count of Salemi. He had an intense education and was prepared to rule as a constitutional monarch. There he is on his coinage, like all of them get from the Roman days. He was intense education and was prepared to rule as a constitutional monarch. In 1883 he travelled to Italy, England, France and Germany, where he increased his knowledge of the modern civilization of his time. In 1883, 1886 and 1888 he ruled as regent as his father was travelling in Europe. As it became tradition among the Portuguese constitutional kings, his father Louis I advised him to be modest and to study with focus. His first bridal candidate was one of the daughters of Frederick III, German Emperor. But the issue of religion presented an insurmountable problem. Isn't that strange? And the pressure of British diplomacy prevented the marriage. He then met and married Princess Amélie of Orleans. I've told you about dining in the New Orleans restaurants with presidents and kings. I've been there. That's New Orleans in America. Everything is derivatized and replayed so that the citizens cannot have a deep understanding of it. Eldest daughter of Philippe, Comte de Paris, pretender to the throne of Paris. Carlos became king on 19th October 1889. That's the time of the Yom Kippur festival, and Green Day sing about September and October. And that is the coronation date for this king. After the 1890 British ultimatum, colonial treaties with the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland, one signed in August 1890, that defined that, now listen to this because it's important, it means that the interlocks with France and the French fiction are very, very important, because their colonial interests in Africa are also massive. Okay, one signed in August 1890 that defined their African borders along the Zambezi and Congo rivers, and another signed on the 14th of October 1899 that confirmed colonial treaties of the 17th century, stabilising the situation in Africa, ending Portuguese claims of sovereignty on the pink map. Yeah, the Portuguese, the pink map, and the links to the pink gems and the Pink Panther gem in particular takes you into Germany and munitions productions there. These agreements were, however, unpopular in Portugal, where they were seen as being to the disadvantage of the country. Look at who's commanded the inquest: United Kingdom of Great Britain and Ireland. Domestically, Portugal was twice declared bankrupt, on the 14th June 1892 and again on the 10th of May 1902. Portugal has a central bank, but the Rothschilds do not run that, so they persecute them, causing industrial disturbances, socialist and republican antagonism, and press criticism of the monarchy. Carlos responded by appointing João Franco as Prime Minister and subsequently accepting Parliament's dissolution. As a patron of science and the arts, King Carlos took an active part in the celebration of the 500th anniversary in 1894 of the birth of Prince Henry the Navigator. The following year he decorated the Portuguese poet João de Deus in a ceremony in Lisbon. That's João de God. Carlos took a personal interest in deep sea and maritime exploration, publishing an account of his own studies in this area. That's why they have an empire, and that, I believe, is why these nations were called the Five Flies. Even the intensive care and anaesthetics sector understand that, because they took me to a restaurant called the Five Flies in Holland when I went to my last academic gathering. Okay, on the first assassination, on the 1st of February 1908, the royal family returned from the palace of Vila Vicosa to Lisbon. They travelled by train to Barreiro, and from there they took a steamer to cross the Tagus River and disembarked at Cais de Sodré in central Lisbon. On their way to the royal palace, the open carriage with Carlos I and his family passed through the Terreiro de Paco, fronting on the river. While crossing the square, shots were fired from the crowd by two Republican activists, Alfredo Costa Coffee. You remember the tax-paying scandal about Costa Coffee in the UK? And Manuel Buica. Buica, a former army sergeant and sharpshooter, fired the first 5 shots from a rifle hidden under his long overcoat. The king died immediately, his heir Louis Philippe was mortally wounded, and Prince Manuel was hit in the arm. The Queen alone escaped injury. The 2 assassins were killed on the spot by police and bodyguards. An innocent bystander was also killed in the confusion. The royal carriage turned into the nearby Navy Arsenal, where Arsene Wenger is now the coach in London at Arsenal FC. That's Arsene Wenger, the Frenchman, where about 20 minutes later the Prince Royal Louis Philippe died. Several days later the younger son, Prince Manuel, was proclaimed King of Portugal. He was, now listen to this because it's important, the last of the Braganza, Saxe-Coburg and Gotha dynasty, and the last king as well. Isn't that a triumph for the things that we sing about in the UK national anthem? That's Braganza, Saxe-Coburg and Gotha. They've changed their names now to the Windsors so that they can have a laugh with the Carry On team and the woman called Windsor who is in that with the big tits, and she frequently gets them out like Katie Price does whenever they need a diversion. Marriage and children. Carlos was married to Princess Amélie of Orleans in 1886. She was the daughter of Prince Philippe, Count of Paris, and Princess Marie Isabel of Orleans. Their children were Louis Philippe, Duke of Braganza, Infanta Maria Ana of Portugal. Maria is the Virgin Mary, Ana is the High Priestess, or a pseudonym for it. Manuel II, King of Portugal, between 1908 and 1910. Okay. Maria Pia de Saxe-Coburg e Braganza had claimed that she was the bastard daughter of King Carlos I by Maria Amelia Laredo e Marca. Okay, so the British royals emerged triumphant, and one of their cousins has gone missing. The same template is used to get rid of Princess Diana whenever they become troublesome, and they've got there things that look a little bit like dragons or seahorses, but I cannot see much evidence of the Piso financial fraud in there, in that actual article about the murdering of the cousins of the monarchy by the most ruthless monarchies that still survive. That is the Dutch, the Spanish and the UK monarchies that originally came from Saxe-Coburgs. And the Georges may well have been decent because they were cast into asylums and they were persecuted and taken from the throne and kept in straitjackets for much of their lives. So whether or not that was an innocent bloodline, one has no idea. But Hollywood also make a movie about Mad King George and the persecution of that person, and the inept medics that look after him. Okay, so there I want you to understand that Carlos, the terror menace that has kept Europe in fear for several decades and was still in the news in the last 3 to 4 years, it is just a cover-up for the assassination of family members in these ruthless and greedy bastard families. The bastard bloodlines mean that they get the syphilis issues, and that is the blue blood joke that the late Greg Hallett shared with us. Okay, so Mario Draghi, I'm on to what you're doing, and I will try and seek the support of the German people who are already contesting what you're doing. The Germans have a much larger social conscience than the rest of Europe. They are efficient, they are productive, and their economy is largely self-sustaining. They do not resort to cheating and stealing from their people as much as the other European countries do, and that is why they are the victims in the massive conflicts. They are portrayed as the villains. The Nazis launch World War II, but all of the creative thinking and strategy making is out of Tavistock, the training centres in Liverpool and America, and all of the propaganda sectors and the intel sectors that now have dismembered the capability and the honesty of every country across our globe, as discussed in the interview on The Real Deal with Jim Fetzer, when Jim Fetzer declared that the CIA now corrupt the elections in America. And isn't that tragic? But they've been corrupting the elections in the other countries for a couple of centuries already. Everything is a scam, nothing is decent, and nothing that is in the papers is about the real deal, about what is happening to our countries and the impoverishment of our children. I'm going to stop there now. I think that's a tragic story, but it gives you insight into how the world fails to work and how everyone is kept in fear by the terror threat, which we sing about in the national anthem, but those words are very little used. This is a shameful issue, and they know it, which is why they need the diversions. Night night. Back to religion for a few days. It is massive. It corrupts the law sector, it corrupts the healthcare sectors, it corrupts every professional sector on our globe, and it means that the citizens get persecuted as the bastards, and some of their martyrs die for the cause. Okay? King Juan Carlos of Spain killed his own brother, who was older than him and was the legitimate claimant to the Spanish throne, and then he started to kill rare species as his diversion. He's the sire of some of Queen Elizabeth of he's the sire of some of Princess Diana's children, and all of it is a vicious joke. And democracy could thrive were it not for the likes of Mario Draghi and the Rothschilds, who keep the financial scams dismembering the sovereignty of every nation on the globe now. Night night.